So I knew the director, Cassius Corrigan, on Instagram, and we've tried to retrace our steps to figure out how we ended up working together. And it evolved organically over a few years. So we were just fans of each other's work. I really loved his films. He really loved my music. And when it came time for his first big feature film, he sent me either a direct message or an email. I really can't remember. And I started writing some music for him to the camera tests. And next thing you know, we have a film that gets picked up by HBO. Essentially, it's a psychological thriller about an MMA fighter, a mixed martial arts fighter, who's suffering from dissociative identity disorder. There's a lot going on between the internal struggle and the external struggle that this character is facing. So that kind of informed the musical decisions that we were willing to take, which was that, a lot of times in film scoring, you want to help move the story along. So you're kind of clarifying what's going on for the audience. But other times you're actually painting the subtext. And then in a film like this, where the character has both internal and external struggles, there's a lot of different layers that need to be going on at the same time. And the way we figured out to do this was to blend organic instrumentation and hybrid instrumentation. So synthesizers, electronic instruments, as well as orchestral instruments. And then sometimes it's a composite, meaning playing some orchestral instruments and programming them into synthesizers so you can apply different effects to them. And those really were the two sides of this character. And they start to morph into one another and then separate depending on what's going on and back again. And you'd really have to watch the film to understand how they interplay, but knowing that, hopefully the score would make more sense when you actually are able to watch it. Film scoring is so collaborative. It's not like I'm writing music that I feel is appropriate for the film. It's really a longer conversation about what the director feels is appropriate and how I can help them translate that into music. So there's a lot of back and forth. Luckily, I was brought on very early in that project, which isn't the normal way to go always. And I had time to sketch things out, to, like I said, score to the camera tests, but then reading the script and also seeing very early cuts and trying some stuff out. So it was just a very long and great collaborative process. There isn't a film score that is representative, because the beauty of film score is that, and the beauty of film in general, is it's this all-encompassing mixed media. So they can be so varied. I mean, there are great film scores that are jazz. There are great film scores that are for lack of a better word, classical, 18th century classical or 20th century classical. But then there's also electronic scores, there's hip hop scores, and you can't really learn anything from any of those scores by themselves, because it's more about how they interact with the film. And what you could do is you could choose a composer and follow some of their work and see if they have a way of helping the narrative. But honestly, I think the absolute best film scores, and I'm sure people will disagree with me here, are the ones that you don't necessarily remember but you thought the film was amazing. Because that means you were totally in the world and you weren't thinking about any one aspect of the film. Now, the further you get into it, the more you will start to notice every aspect and remember every aspect, and it'll still be a great film. But that just means that, like, you're already fully engrossed in the craft and you can't really appreciate it without appreciating the constituent parts. But I spend a lot of time listening to film score radio. That's a really good place to start, because you'll hear the variety. Like if you go to Pandora or Spotify, there's film scoring stations, and they're really good. But the problem there is you're not understanding. You're listening to music that was written for the movie without seeing the movie. Not to take anything away from the score, because I have my own film scores I want people to listen to without watching the movie. But the real beauty is in how they interact with the film. And there are a few websites that have some job postings, like Craigslist or Mandy.com. But the competition is very fierce for those places. And a lot of times, if people are posting on those types of forums, the budgets aren't very good. That's not to say don't use them. I would say those are good places to start to understand the landscape. But you just need to be involved in the industry. I mean, it's this, and I'm not saying you have to already be in it and already making money. I'm saying you need to go out and interact with other people who are doing it. I mean, it's a little harder now in COVID times, because I was thinking about some of the other things I've landed, which were results of maybe going to a film festival where I had something else showing, and then becoming friendly with those people. But in COVID times, there's like a great way to socialize, which we're all in this together, and so we can have Zoom meetups and have drinks with a room full of people, and then maybe have a sidebar with somebody that you like, their work. I wish I had a silver bullet for how to get a film score, but I think it's kind of like any job, which is time management. I mean, I get up every morning and I spend an hour or two doing acquisition. That's legitimately a lifestyle. Like, it's in my calendar. And it probably annoys everybody else I share a calendar with at the studio, that I'm putting in, spending an hour doing emails, spending an hour doing acquisition, spending an hour doing social media. But that's how you interact with people, and you need to spend the time trying to build those relationships if you want to work with people. So again, I think it's a personality of just being a kind, nice person. Because if you have that going for you, I think you'll be able to learn what you need to, because people will be willing to help you. So it's not really about the talent or the past experience. I do specifically like to see self-initiative. I think that's really important, because you can't teach that the same way. I mean, that's like an inner drive. So if the passion is there and the kindness is there, everything else falls into place.